The government will cut spending by 7% over the next 3 years as Financial Secretary Paul Chan aims to narrow down the $87 billion budget deficit. Job cuts and pay freezes for government officials become top priority as the administration targets expenditure to consolidate resources. And a highly anticipated revision to the $2 transport subsidy scheme to take effect in the third quarter of next year. Good evening. You're now watching Cable News. I'm Cheryl Yun. With a broader focus on limiting public expenditure, but at the same time not compromising on people's livelihoods, Financial Secretary Paul Chan unveiled a modest budget for Hong Kong with a deficit of $87.2 billion. Recording a shortfall for the third straight year, the figure was just under 10% lower compared with last year. Jeremy Zhu tells us more.
就業市場穩定，通脹溫和。
Highlighting a number of positive developments in Hong Kong over the past year, such as a stable job market alongside a buoyant stock exchange. The finance chief said the SAR has also experienced a lot of challenges and weathered tough situations with its economic resilience, recording a moderate growth of 2.5% last year. The revenue of nearly $560 billion for 2024 to 2025 was 11% lower than the original estimate. Land sales, which has conventionally been the main source of income for the administration, was down nearly 60% from the estimated $33 billion. The $58 billion earned from stamp duties also fell short of the expected $71 billion. Tightening its purse strings, the government spent lesser than estimated. Total expenditure for 2024 to 2025 was $754.8 billion, which includes a recurring expense of $562.5 billion. By the end of next month, fiscal reserves are expected to be $647.3 billion. With a spending cut of 7% over the following 3 years and raising capital by issuing bonds to support infrastructure projects, Chan is optimistic of reducing the deficit to $67 billion in 2025 to 2026 and returning to a surplus from the following year. Concluding his speech, the finance minister said from a macro perspective, a realistic economic growth rate of 2 to 3% is achievable in 2025 to 2026. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Pledging to balance the books by strictly controlling government expenditure, the financial chief announced a freeze on salaries for top officials and civil servants, a first in over 2 decades, as well as slimming the civil service establishment, with about 10,000 positions expected to be sacked within this term of the government. On the other hand, strategic and infrastructure spending will continue to rise. Quentin Yang has more details.
At the heart of the budget is an enhanced fiscal consolidation plan, targeting a cumulative 7% reduction in recurrent government expenditure by 2027-28, according to Chan. Starting next fiscal year, departments will face additional annual cuts of 1% to their budgets, ramping up savings to $27.3 billion by 2028. Over 4 years, the plan aims to slash $60 billion, with initial savings of $3.9 billion achieved in 2024-25. Taking the lead was an immediate salary freeze for all civil servants, lawmakers, and the chief executive's accountability team, breaking from the tradition of waiting for May's pay trend survey. The civil service establishment will also shrink by 2% annually from 2026. Eliminating roughly 10,000 positions by 2027, Chen said. While tightening belts in some areas, the budget doubles down on strategic spending. Recurrent expenditures for healthcare, welfare, and education will continue to rise. Meanwhile, infrastructure spending will surge to support mega projects and public services. We will make every effort to minimize the impacts on public services and people's livelihoods, while laying a sustainable fiscal foundation for future development, Chen said. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
In a highly anticipated move, Paul Chan announced revisions to the $2 transport subsidy scheme, which take effect from September 2026. Capping the number of monthly rides to 240, Joy U card holders will have to pay 20% off the fare for trips costing more than $10. Jeremy Zhu reports.
The $2 scheme in place for nearly 13 years will still benefit residents aged 60 and older and eligible disabled persons, though their costs will change. The maximum rides per month will be cut from unlimited to 240. For fares below $10, the cost remains at $2. For fares above $10, an 80% discount will apply. For instance, a $20 bus ride will cost $4 after the discount, and a $30 ride will cost $6. Government sources indicate that the discounted fare will be calculated based on adult ticket prices. Apart from the changes in the $2 fare concession, the threshold for public transport subsidies for all residents will increase from $400 to $500, covering 1/3 of monthly transport expenses over that amount, up to $400. Combined with the adjusted $2 scheme, authorities expect to save a total of $6.2 billion over the next 5 years. In other senior welfare news, the government will increase the number of care home and community care service vouchers to 6,000 and 12,000, with costs projected at $1.71 billion and $900 million annually, respectively. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Apart from the adjustment in the $2 transport subsidy scheme, the latest budget has seen a reduction in one-off relief measures for Hong Kongers, with the government allocating just $8.3 billion in sweeteners, down from $11.5 billion in the previous budget. Taxpayers will continue to receive a 100% salaries tax or personal assessment tax deduction, but the ceiling has been halved to $1,500. Similarly, profits tax relief for the current financial year has also been cut half to a maximum of $1,500. Financial Secretary Paul Chan stated that these measures will benefit 2.14 million taxpayers and around 165,000 businesses, reducing government revenue by $3.1 billion. Homeowners and non-domestic property owners will receive rates concessions of up to $500 for the first quarter of the fiscal year, half of last year's amount. Meanwhile, Social Security recipients will continue to receive an extra half-month payment, costing the government $3.1 billion. Overall, the revised measures will decrease the government's total revenue loss from $8.5 billion last year to $4.8 billion, saving $3.7 billion in other words. While the government is tightening belt in some areas, it is also boosting revenue through broad tax hikes. Announcing a renewed focus on the user pay principle, Paul Chan reviewed new charges targeting air travelers, motorists, and even sports bettors. Quentin Yang tells us more.
In one of the boldest moves, the aircraft passengers' departure tax will soar by 67%, from $120 to $200, as early as October. The hike, expected to generate an additional $1.6 billion annually, will apply only to tickets purchased after October, sparing existing bookings. Government emphasized the minimal disruption to travelers. Meanwhile, tolls on major tunnels and highways, some unchanged for 30 years, will be revisited. These infrastructures required massive public investment. It's time to rebalance the burden through user contributions, Chen said. Electric vehicle license fees, parking meter rates, and traffic violation fines will also rise, collectively projected to bring in $2 billion yearly. Additionally, a new $200 border construction fee for private cars exiting via land checkpoints is proposed, targeting frequent cross-boundary drivers. While officials estimate $1 billion in annual revenue, the timeline remains unclear. Meanwhile, Chen also announced plans to regulate basketball betting through the Jockey Club, citing $70 to $90 billion in illegal wagers last year. Chen stressed the primary goal is to dismantle illegal gambling, but if authorized, basketball betting could generate $1.5 to $2 billion in revenue, he added. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
Riding on the revival of tourism, the new budget proposed to give a jab to the economy by allocating $1.235 billion to the Hong Kong Tourism Board in the coming year to further implement the tourism is everywhere concept and the development blueprint for Hong Kong's tourism industry 2.0. Evelyn Bai reports.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan revealed in the budget that the Tourism Board will collaborate with more international brands and enhance distinctive tourism products, including ecotourism, panda tourism, and horse racing tourism. The HKTB will continue to support the staging of more meetings and exhibitions, expecting to bring about 183,000 additional visitor arrivals and $1.4 billion in spending, Chen added. With more than 240 mega events on the horizon, the budget continued to promote and publicize Hong Kong as a mega events capital globally, especially by attracting large-scale sports events, as the Kai Tak Sports Park is set to open on March 1st. Meanwhile, the government also invited the MTR Corporation to explore developing the waterfront areas near Hong Kong Station into a new harbourfront landmark. In addition, Hong Kong will also see the establishment of a new yacht club, aiming to boost yacht tourism, with land use proposal expected to be submitted by mid-year. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
On the property market front, the government has raised the threshold of homes entitled to $100 stamp duty from $3 million to $4 million. Meanwhile, to tackle oversupply, the government will put on a 12-month halt on commercial land sales. To alleviate the financial burden on buyers of lower-value residential and non-residential properties, the finance chief announced an increase of the maximum property value eligible for $100 stamp duty from $3 million to $4 million, effective immediately. The measure is expected to benefit around 15% of property transactions and reduce government revenue by about $400 million annually. Meanwhile, due to a sluggish commercial property market, the government will not be selling any commercial sites in the coming year to allow the market to absorb the existing supply. There are also plans to change some of the commercial plots for other uses. Chen highlighted the high vacancy rates of offices in recent years and the ample supply in the next few years. As for residential sites, Chen said the land sales list for the upcoming financial year includes 8 plots. Along with other property projects, it is expected to yield about 13,700 units for the whole year. The government will prepare land for about 80,000 private housing units in the coming 5 years, with 65% of the land from the Northern Metropolis and Tung Chung New Town extension. The finance chief expects land premium revenue to rise progressively to 2% of GDP in the 2026-27 financial year and onwards. Stocks in the city rallied after the fresh budget brought confidence to the public, with the benchmark Hang Seng Index hitting a 3-year high. Evelyn Bai reports.
Rising 3.27%, the Hang Seng Index once exceeded the 23,900-point mark before closing at 23,787 points, reaching another 3-year high. The total market turnover reached $317.1 billion. Hong Kong plans to spend $1 billion on an AI research center, Financial Secretary Paul Chan revealed in his budget speech, and pledged to continue supporting the technology and innovation industries. Tech stocks performed well, with Chinese food delivery company Meituan rocketing 9.84%, e-commerce giant JD.com surging 8.45%, and Xiaomi rising over 5%. Chip stocks saw mixed performance. SMIC rose 5.9%, while ASMPT plummeted 16.6%. Longfor Group was the top blue chip winner after it soared 10.67%. Budweiser APAC followed with the rise of 10.46%. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy with 1 or 2 light rain patches at first. Sunny intervals during the day tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 17 and 22 degrees. Moderate east to northeasterly winds. And that's our news tonight. I'm Cheryl Yun. Thanks for watching and good night.